£250 million a year of public lottery cash is given to the film industry every year. So there's got to be bang for the taxpayer's buck. This is what he's going to say today.
Is he?
Yeah,
Are you sure of that?
I'm not sure of that, but that's what I'm being told to say,
Yes.
you know, at the state-run BBC. So there we are. What do you think? If that is the case, what do you think?
Well, this is a report of a review long review that's been made into the film industry, which is not going to say that, as I understand it. And it looks to me as though Cameron is cherry-picking one or two bits out of that review, dressing it up in Tory language, spinning it, in other words, so that it fits in with his own preoccupations.
So this is going to be his inference from the report. If that is the case, it's a difficult business,
Yes.
isn't it? Because if you get a film like Rachel was just mentioning off there a few minutes ago, In-Betweeners, which was from a successful TV comedy, which was
hugely commercially successful. I think it took something like £45 million.
But then you've got other things which have come from hugely successful television programmes and hugely successful formula which have been flops. And then you get art films which are unexpected massive successes. So, I mean, how do you calibrate it?
Well, nobody knows. When you start out with an idea, it may be successful in many different ways. It may be successful commercially. It may be successful in developing its own idea. If everyone knew what would be successful before you made it, everybody would make success all the time. Of course, you have to take chances on ideas and on people, and it's a form, it's a creative form, and who knows how a film will develop.
Does this mean more Richard Curtis and less Ken Loach in broad terms?
Well, I'm not sure Richard Curtis would say that. I wouldn't like to comment.
But he makes some would argue formulaic films, tremendously successful films.
Well, that's you saying that. I wouldn't make that criticism. But I
It's
think
not a criticism.
Well, formulaic is a criticism.
Some would say I said formulaic. I never
Well,
said that.
that's a kind of devious way of suggesting it, isn't it? I mean, I think we're missing the point here. The change, as I understand it in the review, is this. Before the review, and if the review is accepted, public money that goes into supports films through the lottery, before the review, it would go straight back to the funder, whether it's the Film Council or the BFI. Now, that money, when money is being taken, will go back to the producer, and the producer will then have to reinvest it in new projects, and that's a way of making the fund work again, and that's good. But to say to then make the jump and say that is then rewarding mainstream films, of course, is not true.
Make a case for the arts, the way that they nourish our spirit.
Make a case for the arts? I mean, this is the BBC. Do you know where you're working? To make a case for the arts?
Well, we want to hear it from you, a highly respected filmmaker. We want to just tell us, remind people who may not believe, remind some people who may be listening and think that does have to be bang for buck, why it's important. It's so important to have. And David Miliband, Ed Miliband did address this issue yesterday in his speech. Why it is so important for our society. That's what I'm asking you.
Yes. Well, in whatever art it is, whether it's painting or literature or in poetry or in films or theatre, art is a way of reflecting the world back to us, reflecting our experiences back to us, enabling us to understand what it is to be human, to tease out our relationships, to make sense of the world we live in, to be entertained, to be amused, to be challenged, to be enlightened, to be exhilarated, and that's what art can do in many forms. And I think it's not pretentious to say that cinema is one of those forms.
Beautifully put. Thank you very much indeed.